How much question will be?
Exactly.
And the strategy for the next decade. We've got to do a technical review. He'd last time I don't know what he did.
Did you just say right? They're always on the phone. It's always somebody else's fault.
Okay, we're live streaming, everybody. I'll call the meeting to order, please. I think most of us are here. So I think if we can stand for karakia. Whakataki te hau ki te ru, whakataki te hau ki te tona, kia mākina ki te tata, kia mātata ki tau, kia mākina ki te atara, ki te teo te ruka, ki te teo. Good morning and welcome. So to our representation review hearings. So you have the report on page 121 in front of you, and we now have, we've got, I think, our first person is in the waiting room. Is there anything, and is Angela here or Tania, that you wanted to say to the report to start with?
No, I think Kate was read, but...
Okay, thank you. And I've just been reminded that I forgot to do the apologies. So we'll go back to the agenda proper. Conflicts of interest. Members to declare any. Apologies. I have an apology for lateness from Tito. Is there any others? No, there is not. Okay, so you'll take the report as read. We'll take the report as read. Is there any questions on that report? No, there is not. So now we will invite John Cunningham to, who will be on Zoom. Sorry. Sorry. Are you there, John? Can you hear us?
Hello, it's John speaking. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, see if I find it. Okay. Welcome, John. So we obviously can't see you, but we're here in Waiata House. So just to give you a quick update, you can take it that the councillors have read your submission. So really this process is to give you the opportunity to expand on your submission and to really focus on any key points. So you have 7 minutes to speak, and we will let you know at the 6-minute time, and then we allow 3 minutes for councillors to ask you any questions. You fine with that?
Yeah, fine with that.
Okay, so over to you now, John.
Yeah, kia ora, thank you for having me here today. I apologise for the lack of video. I'm very new to this, so please bear with me. Am I allowed to comment on the numbers of the councillors?
Yes.
You proposed?
Yes, that's part of your submission, yes.
Cool. Yeah, I believe in larger councils, as there's greater diversity, with more members in council. I believe the council will work better with a wider base of opinions. Members who are required to be paid more for their position on council are probably relying on the council too much for their income. I would rather have people who have a steady income outside of council as this shows they are working for the council, not so much for monetary gain, but for the good of the council. My submission is that under the proposal for the Māori wards, you are setting Māori at a disadvantage. Yes, you are giving Māori a seat in council. However, you are taking away the power of Māori, the Māori voter, to decide the makeup of the council as a whole. We're living in the 21st century. This proposal of yours harkens back to the 19th century. I think we all here understand that under your proposal, Māori will be limited to voting for just 4 seats in council, whereas anyone else will be able to vote for 7 seats. Clearly, this is not democracy, and I can assume that we all agree that this is not perfect. Whilst reading the guideline issued by the government to help councils in this matter, my attention was drawn to Chapter 5, titled Fair and Effective Representation, Section 5.21. This states that the legislation is neutral where the territorial authority needs to be divided into wards. Territorial authorities, other territorial authorities have opted for elections at large. This is in the case of territorial authorities that share a common community of interest. It also mentions the benefit of voting in this manner. I think we all agree that any voter on the Māori roll living in our district is indistinguishable from any other voter living in this district. We are your neighbours, we require the same services as you do, and we share the same concerns as the Māori community. We are a common community of interest. To have an election at large where everyone has the same number of votes, whether that voter be on the Māori roll or the general roll, is my preference, of course with a Māori ward included. Lastly, I must point out or remind you of your obligation under the Treaty of Waitangi to protect the rights and interests of Māori, especially so when it comes to the partnership you wish to build here. This first document of our country binds you to do better and fairer for your Māori voters. We Māori have lived in this constituency, this ward, this community for over 500 years. We're not going away, and we deserve to have the same voting rights as the rest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, John. I'll just ask councillors if they have any questions of you from your submission. Councillors, is there any questions? No, there doesn't appear to be, John. So we will respond to your submission and give you some more details around the Local Electoral Act, which doesn't allow us to do what you're suggesting. We're constrained legally, but that will be explained in the response to you. And I know the government is looking to make further changes to the Local Government Electoral Act. So hopefully that will address some of the concerns that you've raised. Okay, so thank you very much, John. Thank you for your submission and your time this morning.
Thank you.
Okay, the next is John Darziel.
I don't have John, but I have Brent Reed.
Okay, we'll move to submission number 43 on page 54 on John. Brent, sorry. And is he being viewed in? Kia ora, Brent, can you hear us? No. So.
Who are we going to, Lynn?
Brent Reed on page 54. Can you hear us, Brent? Are you on mute? We can't hear you. Are you on mute?
Ron?
Kia ora, Brent. We can hear you now, I think, so
You can hear me now?
yes, we can. So, welcome. So, I'll just outline the process. So, the hearings really gives you an opportunity to expand on your submission and to focus on any key points that you want to make.
Right.
So, we allow you 7 minutes. We will let you know at 6 minutes, and then we allow 3 minutes for any questions that councillors
Sure.
may have. So, over to you.
Is it my turn now, is it?
Yes, it is. You're.
Oh, okay. I can't see any of you guys though. Is that, am I meant to?
Good, lucky you.
Yeah. One of our councillors has just said, lucky you, that you can't see us. So I'm not too sure why you can't. We can see you and hear
You can see me.
and you can hear us. You can hear all right?
I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll start now.
Yes, please.
Okay, well, greetings, councillors. Oh, yes, I can see you now. I can see you all now. Greetings, councillors. I'll begin briefly with who I am. And as you know, my name is Brent Reid, and I live in Masterton with my wife, who is from Tasmania, Australia, and I have 2 young adult children. My father was Livia Gazala Te Roha Parai Reid, and his father was Hone Te Kauru Ka, who fought with Charlie Company in the Māori Battalion in World War II. My son often laments that he is a descendant of convicts and cannibals, which is true. And we all descend from our forefathers, the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's how we build a nation. And I believe we should all be equal under one common law, and separate Māori seats go against us. It appears that the council have already decided on a Māori ward without community consultation, which in my view is underhanded and undemocratic. Because a Māori ward because it's a done deal, then this submission is probably a bit pointless. But I want to have my say, which is my right in a democracy. Nānoa Mahuta knew from previous attempts to establish Māori wards on councils that the overwhelming majority were against it, so she removed the democratic right of voters to choose. So it seems that it didn't take long for councils, including this one, to behave like dictators. Moreover, Māori wards would further the agenda of he puapu. Now, under the current proposal, 3 councillors would be elected at large, where everyone votes on them, and that means those on the Māori roll get 2 votes for 50% of the council, when they're not 50% of the population, and that is 1 Māori ward councillor and 3 at-large councillors. I think this is unfair. And Māori politics today seems less about what is good for Māori and more about things like cultural Marxism and left-wing socialist liberal views, and it's more akin to green politics and, of course, separatism, which I'm dead against. And this is what I fear from a Māori ward, where the majority do not have a say, and including Māori like myself, who are not on the Māori roll. And there's no such thing as a Māori perspective or worldview. Several years ago, I was interviewed after the census by a person working for the government, wanting to know the views of Māori on a wide variety of issues. And I asked the interviewer, was there anything that a majority felt strongly about one way or another? And she said, no, all views were varied and different. There was no consistent view that Māori people had. It was all Māori people only being interviewed for this. Now, it appears that Māori people in positions of any authority often assert certain views, claiming it is a Māori view, which it is not. Rather it is their own view. I believe Māori sitting in race-based seats would do just that, just assert views and claim it's a Māori view, and it's not. There's no Pāhea view either. There's just the views that people decide on. And we are divided by ideology, not race. Therefore, there's no need for Māori seats. Voters need the choice to know what they are voting for. And a race-based Māori ward denies democracy, and it's actually apartheid. And can you imagine having a seat on the council for Pākehā only? And it's also patronising to Māori people to lower the bar of democracy so a person of Māori descent can sit on council. And that's why it seems to me that's what's happened, is the bar's been lowered. When Māori people are quite capable of competing for the democratic vote like anyone else. True equality is being treated equal under the law. And I know many people who are against race-based seats, but they are afraid to speak out of fear because they're accused of being racist. And that's just a common ploy to shut down debate. So I'm speaking because I fear the country is being divided by local government and central government sponsored racism. And this has always failed overseas, and it will divide our communities here. And I grew up in a New Zealand when race relations were better than today. And my father and his Pākehā mates, they always threw racial slurs at each other, but no offence was ever intended and none was ever taken because they loved each other. But everyone's gone woke today. And I suspect Rā and Tiro Maira to claim partnership of governance under the treaty. Well, it's a fallacy. And a plain reading of the treaty shows that sovereignty was ceded to the British Crown. Okay, I've had my rant, so I'll finish a bit early, and I'll leave it there, and you can ask me any questions you'd like to ask me. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brent. I'll go to any councillors have any questions. Right.
Brent, can you tell us the principle 3 of the treaty?
Look, I read it, but I didn't memorise it, right? I mean, but it's from what I read was, and I read several times, that the Māori ceded sovereignty to Queen Victoria. Now, there's a plain reading and there's a spin or an interpretation, and that's a plain reading.
It's not a plain reading of section 3.
Okay. Any other any questions? No, there's no further questions. Thank you for participating and thank you for your submission, Brent. So we will you'll receive a response to your submission. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Cheers.
It's John in the waiting room. So we'll just go back to John, which is on page 71. Hi John, how are you? Can you hear us, John?
Yeah, can I
Hi John, can you hear us? Looks like he's frozen. John, can you hear us? I see you're on mute. I think you're on mute. Or is that ours? Is that us?
No, it's his. Okay.
Hi John.
Hi.
Hi, can you see
Good
us?
morning.
Good morning. You can see.
Yeah, I can on my cell phone. I'm
Okay.
on my computer.
That's great. Okay, welcome John. I think you know the process, but just to recap, it gives you an opportunity to focus on key points to your submission, but you can take it that your submission's been read. You have 7 minutes. We'll let you know when 6 minutes is up, and then we allow 3 minutes for questions. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Good to see you all around the table again. My submission's obviously short, and I think it's some repetitive from my role on the council when we went through this same representational review when I was on council. So I certainly agree, if you remember my previous views on the reduction of the council numbers, but I, as you can see, would probably look at a bit taking it down to 6 or 7, and then looking at appointing some members from the community who can add value, particularly governance values, to the skills that councillors already have. As I said last time, it's in no way derogatory conversation with the skills the councillors have already got, because they're there for all the good reasons. But I think it's been obvious to me, observing the discussions around the Civic Centre in particular, and probably the Three Waters, which will come up soon, is that I just feel that a decision as big as this, with a 35 to possibly 45 or 50 million spend, really would be far better serviced by some people in the community who have dealt with big business and gone through a process of governance and supporting or declining large spends and large operations and businesses or whatever it might be. And I just noted there that Fletcher Challenge have a $4 billion revenue and have 7 directors. And I would doubt very much that at any point in time they would make a vote on a major expenditure of, say, $500 million, and then with a 1-vote majority. And I think that's caused so much grief in the community, and for you guys as well, I imagine, that I just wondered if there was not some independent appointed people, and whether they attend every meeting or just there for specific roles in decision making such as this, would probably take a lot of tension out of the meeting, out of the community. It is a totally different ball game when you're dealing with larger sums of money, and with the greatest respect to councillors, I'm not too sure that there are many there that have made a decision that's been worth $35 or $40 million. So I just think this exercise could have been supported and helped by some experienced directors who are out in our community, obviously, some retired, some not, who I think would be more than happy to come and have a community position, paid possibly, to support these larger decisions and support councillors on other decisions as well. I think one coming up is obviously the Three Waters. And again, I remember on my time on the council, I attended a rural provincial meeting in Wellington, and a bureaucrat gave us quite a long ceremony there on his views of councils, and he wasn't overly complimentary. And one thing I do remember him saying, well, there's a couple of things that I just remember one of them, and one of them was that he said quite clearly, and I think his words were exact, in saying that the government doesn't see councillors as directors of a business, they see them as community board workers, which I found slightly insulting. It was interesting that not one person in that room, the mayors and CEOs or anyone, even made a comment to him. So I think that sits behind some of the reasons why we're now seeing central government wanting to take over Three Waters. And there's some positives and negatives in that. I appreciate all that, but I just think if the councillors, I think it's the biggest role that councillors have, it's the biggest spend the councillors have, and obviously the government don't see that the councils, and I think they made it quite clear, have the skills to be continually dealing with these large expenditures, and of course they've got the risks of the water breakdowns in Hawke's Bay as an example, which makes them get fairly nervous. So overall, I really do support a change in the structure of councils, as long as councils survive through this restructuring that the government's planning. And it may well be that the role is more of a community role than a council role as we've known it. I hope not, but time will tell. I just think we need to be aware of it. We were given a clear message 3 years ago. I don't think anyone took any notice of it, and here we are now at a crisis point, in my view, in terms of the future of councils as we know it. And the other point I made, and I think I made this before, that I just think councillors come in with to play a role in the communities and do it positively and full of enthusiasm, which is absolutely applaudable. And so often it becomes quite difficult because they just haven't had the knowledge of dealing with business and big decisions and dealing with the paperwork and everything else. And I think I did suggest, Lynn, when I was on the council, that it would be great to have some sort of an education position taken by the council to support councillors to understand their roles as, in inverted commas, directors of the community, and the Institute of Directors is a very good conduit, has some really good start-up courses for directors to understand their role as governors. And I must have had personal experience of doing that, and I found it very rewarding and certainly helped me in my role from my previous roles on a board. That's probably just briefly about it. I also supported the rural ward being incorporated in the large ward at the last review, and with the view that an advisory committee or some sort of communication role be picked up with the rural communities. They're major contributors with their rates, in particular to the council, often feel left out. Really, in my time on council, I think it was 6 months before the word rural was even mentioned. And so I just thought that you needed a communication with rural ratepayers through federated farmers or other organisations. I did hear that there was a committee set up. I can't actually remember them being presenting to the council on my turn, and I'm just checking that there is that communication role there with the rural community. And probably that's about it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. I'll just go to councillors to see if they had any questions. Councillor Nixon.
Kia ora, John. Thanks very much for your very good submission. I just wondered, in terms of the Institute of Directors, there's quite a difference between how we run our accounting procedures within council and as private companies. So would you see the need for a bespoke course set up by the Institute of Directors, specifically to deal with the vagaries of local government?
No, I think the principles of governance are the same for local government as they would be for being a director on a small board in particular, and probably doesn't quite get to the sort of Fletcher Challenge type intellect that you need. But no, I think the initial courses of the Institute of Directors that I undertook really just got me focused on what my role as a director would be, and you can get a general course, and then you can also go into specific areas such as finance and chairmanship and committees and all that sort of stuff if you need to. But I just think it's a very good service they offer. You have to pay for it, obviously, but I think a lot of councils would benefit out of that. Not only for their role on the council, but for any roles that they pick up later on in life after they've done their service on the council.
And are you aware of how many councillors actually have been through Institute of Directors?
No idea at all. I think with my role in the council, I don't think anyone had. They may be different on the council at the moment.
Fraser. Councillor Mark.
Yeah, John, many thanks for your presentation. We currently have an independent chair of the Audit and Risk Committee, as we did in your term as a councillor. And you would see in your submission that you would expand on that in future councils?
Well, I just see it as an option, Fraser. Yeah, I do. I mean, Philip was an excellent chairman, and I spoke to him on several occasions. Myself, after meetings, in telephone conversations, I thought he was an excellent conduit for the audit committee and for councillors. I suppose the point is he is employed by Local Government New Zealand, and nothing wrong with that. And I thought he's incredibly valuable, particularly around that financial area. And that, I just see that he may be the one that could add value to councillors in coming and talking, discussing on some sort of initiation program or on a regular basis to answer questions that arise when you're sitting there trying to make decisions and a little bit uncertain of process. That could be an alternative, Fraser, no doubt about it, yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Holmes and then Councillor Kafal.
Thank you, John. The Rural Advisory Group's up and running, as you probably should know. I'm just concerned about your independent advisors on the council. I just wonder what happens if, for example, if you have two independent councillors that are really opposed to some major project, but the councillors want to go ahead of it. Do you think that's going to cause a lot of angst?
No, I don't know. I think the councillors at the end of the day were the ones that will make the decision. And if you've got some independents there, even if they put arguments to you that are against the decision, it's a fantastic position to be in, isn't it? To know that you can defend your position against someone outside of the organisation who's just there to stimulate discussion, perhaps stimulate an alternative view, or settle some minds in there of people who might just, like in a position you're in currently, say with a 5-all vote and one 5-6 vote at least, and it's caused so much grief in the community, unnecessary grief in my view. But if there was just someone there with an independent position who raised some other issues that could just change some minds, settle down the opinions of some others, it's just a conduit of clarity, I think, from an experienced director who's been in business dealing with large sums of money and large deals and understands the intricacies of that I, for one, don't understand completely, to be perfectly honest.
Thank you.
You'd all feel the same. So it's just takes a bit of the stress they're doing, because it must be incredibly difficult to be dealing with the last few months that you've dealt with.
Okay, Councillor Deville.
Hey, John. John, just one thing. How would you see those people from outside? Who would appoint them? Have you got that in mind as to how would those people be appointed?
Well, I mean, I think there could just be some personal friendships or knowledge of someone who's retired in the community, who may be looking to make some contribution back to the community. I mean, you could advertise in the Institute of Directors for that sort of role. You could advertise in the local paper, word of mouth. I don't know that it would be too difficult to find somebody, to be quite honest. I mean, I'm on the sports trust for the council, and we've restructured and looking for new trustees, and I was told categorically that I would never get anybody to go on there. And we just by word of mouth, we had 5 absolutely fantastic people with different skills who volunteered to come on and take the roles on. So that really surprised me, and I'm hoping it surprised the person that told me that I wouldn't get anybody. But so I don't think that would be an issue, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions? There appears to be not. Thank you very much for your submission, John, and you'll be provided with a response in due course. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for your patience for me to repeat it all, and good luck with your decision making.
Thank you, John.
Yes, bye.
Okay. So the next one is on page 62. Submission. Kia ora, Matt. Can you hear me?
No.
I think you're on mute.
There we go. Is that better? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear me, Matt?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you very much. So, thank you for putting in your submission, and so this is really your opportunity to expand on anything that you've already got in your submission. You can take it that the councillors have read the submission, and there may be key areas that you may want to focus on. You have 7 minutes to speak, and we'll let you know at 6 minutes, and then we allow 3 minutes afterwards for any questions that we may have. So I'll hand over to you, Matt.
That's great. So thank you so much for the opportunity to present today. I just thought it was really important for us to present as an organisation to your representation review, because I believe that less than 2% of people with disabilities are represented within council, and particularly I believe that's probably because of the cost associated with standing for council. So I just really encourage council to maybe look at decreasing the cost of standing for council, because I believe that will increase the diversity across councils if people with disabilities have the opportunity to stand. Obviously, we would advocate on things beyond the disability sector as well, because we live and work in the community and across various sectors of the community, like education, health. So yeah, I just believe that the representation should be at a greater level for people with disabilities, because I believe across local body politics it's actually less than 2%, so it's really quite poor. And I think just given the opportunity to represent disability issues, because I know CCS Disability Action obviously are an organisation that's now worked within the disability sector for 80 plus years, and it's just really an opportunity to advocate, like I say, across other areas and other sectors of the community and society in general. One of our key aspects that we work with obviously is mobility parking, so that's probably outside, a little bit outside representation, but that is a growing area for people with disabilities, where there's a greater need for mobility parking to be, I guess, to be considered at a greater level, and more mobility parking spaces being provided. So it's just also really about the opportunity for people with disabilities to move across their community and contribute in a fully accessible community. And I just encourage council to look at the term access in a holistic way, because I think by giving access to representation and opportunities such as these to consult, I think there'll be a lot of really effective input and help increase diversity and equal opportunities across organisations like councils for people with disabilities to make a real difference.
Okay.
So that was really me, really quick, but I'm just wondering if anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much for your submission and your presentation, Matt. I'll just open up the floor to see if anybody has any questions. Councillor Gaffel.
G'day, Matt. Thank you very much for your submission. Matt, when you're talking about the cost to get on the council, are you talking about the $200 bond at the start, or the cost to actually electioneer and get yourself popular enough to get on?
I think that's where I was really kind of thinking from the electioneering point of view, and just the I guess the ability for people with disabilities to actually get on council, because I realise right across the board that it's really representation across local body politics in general, and I think that if we look at people with disabilities to contribute at a greater level,
think your screen might have frozen there, Matt. Can you still hear me, Matt?
Oh, sorry, I've been hearing. Yes, I can.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yes, no, that's fine. Okay, so is there, did you finish that question to Gary? So I'll see if any other councillors have a question. Anybody else? There is nobody else. Thank you very much for your submission, Matt, and for your time presenting today, and you will get a response to your submission in due course. Okay, I'm not sure. It looks like it's frozen again. Okay. Okay, thanks, Matt. I think we just... Is the next one James in the waiting room? Okay. So we just got to wait for the next presenter, which is James, and page 47, submission number 38.
It's pretty disappointing turning out submissions really, wasn't it? Number 57.
But better than the 4 I think we got last time.
4 and 2. But I thought...
Oh, last time was quite, because we were taking goes at large, so I thought... Yeah, but we're not talking about a Maori ward here either.
No. This is across the board. That's the big compare.
Just when I hoped it would be representation. And they're both really good.
Are we still just to make you aware that we're still live streaming while we wait for James to come in.
This is for someone who wants to step into the school.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Did you stop it?
In a large school, it's not that bad.
Kia ora, Tito.
Kia ora.
You're up the front there.
Oh, I'm on the naughty seat.
Take that one and swap.
Okay. Thanks. Kia ora, everybody. Hi. How do you know?
That's your tenant, she's got to sit up the front.
Just hide it to you.
We're just waiting for the last speaker. It's cold. It's freezing out. We haven't got any contact information. So just to remind us that we have a future for local government webinar on after this for those that would like to watch it. Yeah. It's the panel that released the report. This speaking, I think it's an hour long. Yeah. And we'll ask Tanya to speak after we finish this, a little bit about the process from here on in. We'll just give James, it's just 1:45 now I think, so we'll give him a few more minutes.
That's all right. Let's set up.
Did you take the sound? the sound is still on our live streamer. I don't know.
So is the next one, the Zoom, is that the webinar over the backseat hesitancy?
Oh, is it the back? Oh, so I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I got my webinars mixed up. The other,
This is tomorrow.
yeah, the other for local government is, there's one tomorrow and one on Friday. Beg your pardon. I wonder why Harriet gave me that long.
So and what time's that webinar, 1:30?
No, 11 o'clock.
So the time's the same, just
There's one tomorrow and one.
Yeah, the time's the same.
Thursday as well.
So just, yeah, Thursday and Friday. I think Harriet sent a notice out about that.
Yeah, but you see,
Okay. Okay, I'll just call the meeting to order, please. Thank you, Sandy and David. Just call the meeting back to order. So the last submitter hasn't arrived yet on Zoom. So on page 121 is the report on the representation review hearing. The recommendation is that council receives the submissions on the 2021 representation review. We note the 57 submissions were received, and we note that of those submissions received, 5 had requested to be heard. I think there should be 5. I think originally was 6. Or 6 were. We should leave it at 6 because that's, yeah, sorry, leave it at 6. Sorry, and that. So, Harriet, just suggesting at the end of number 3 that we add and that council heard from 4. submitters. Okay, so with that amendment, is there, and if there's no questions of the report, moved by Councillor Gear, seconded by Councillor Malman. Any questions or discussion? There appears to be not. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion is carried, and that concludes our representation review hearing, and I call the meeting to a close. And we're off air.
You're off air.
Off air, thank you. Thanks, Matt. So Tania, did you want to just talk to us about the process for the way forward, please?
Yeah, sure. So obviously we've had the submission process and the hearings today. Our next step is to complete the analysis of the feedback that we have received. Our aim is to workshop that back with you guys, hopefully next week. We have to publicly